Emergency meeting over coronavirus fears as President Akufo-Addo suspends all foreign travels by public officials and officers. As we await the outcome of the ongoing emergency meeting, we hear from the Health Ministry, which is tonight calling for calm as Ghana's northern neighbor Burkina Faso deals with its first case.
I would like to implore all Ghanaians to calm their nerves. Nobody should panic. We have put in place a lot of mechanisms to make sure that immediately detect and contain any case.
We'll have the latest for you from that ongoing meeting and explore what differences the latest presidential directive will make as the leaders show example as the fears of coronavirus grows.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Bond Savings and Loans. Your success, our passion, also brought to you by Gasem Cement, the Nation Builder, and Vodafone. The future is exciting, ready. Tonight, health officials have for the last several hours been locked up in an emergency meeting over coronavirus fears, with Ghana's northern neighbor dealing with its first recorded case. In fact, I want to take you live now to that particular meeting, where I've just been joined on the telephone line by Dr. Franklin Asiru Bekwe, who is the head of disease surveillance, who is chairing that particular meeting. Doc, I'm grateful that you've agreed to step out of this meeting briefly to talk to us. What's on the agenda, and have you agreed on anything yet?
Okay, thank you very much. But I'll say that there are several meetings going on. Earlier in the day, the DG apparently invited all regional directors to a meeting. The idea is to have an update from each region about the level of preparedness and then if there are challenges. So that meeting ended this is about 12 hours ago. Currently, now what I'm in is the EOC meeting. So there are two separate meetings.
What is the EOC meeting?
The EOC, in order to address the COVID or public health emergencies in Ghana, we have what we call the Emergency Operations Center. So it's the main operation command system that tries to respond to or prepare and respond to the outbreak. So we have it along thematic areas of surveillance, case management, risk communication, and laboratory. So we meet every Tuesday. So this meeting we are having now is different from the one that we had earlier, whereby the Director General and officials from the Ministry of Health actually met all 16 regional directors to make sure that we are all in sync with our approach to address the threat of coronavirus.
If it's okay to ask you about that meeting, what was the outcome of that? Was there satisfactory preparedness from these regions?
Yeah, I think that we try to look at each region by region. One thing is whether they have distributed the case definitions as well have been asked by the recent alert, whether they have activated their emergency management committees, and whether they have actually designated isolation places, and whether they have designated holding rooms and treatment centers. So those were the series of questions, and then what kind of communication is going down there. So the answer is varied. So you could see that there is some element of I would say satisfaction in some areas, and there were some challenges that we need to improve on. So that was the essence of the meeting. So that at the end, we are supposed to be clear in our approach to address the threat, that this is where we want to go. And so that was the whole essence of the meeting. So we look at also the point of entries. If you are a region and you have a point of entry, what's your level of preparedness? What do you need to do? And then there's a bit of training. What kind of training do you need to be doing now? So there's a series of things that were actually advocated for, led by the DG.
And overall, what level of satisfaction do you have, say, on a scale of 0 to 10? Are you happy with the progress that they've made?
Well, I think that if you look at, let's say, I like to look at it by, I would say, is it by functions? It's like, are we able to detect cases? Are we able to confirm? So you realize that in terms of detection, Ghana, we have recorded over 54 suspected cases. So it tells you that the health people have knowledge about how to suspect a case. And then we also look at whether we are able to confirm. And if you look at these cases, a number of them have been actually been tested in Noguchi and I think 2 in KCCR. So things that are set up, about to detect and then confirm is working. So for the 54 cases, a number of them were seen at the hospital, not at the Potoka, but most of them were actually seen at the health facility. And the health facility includes private and public. So it tells you that somehow the private is also on board in terms of our detection. So that gives us some level of encouragement that we are doing a bit in that perspective. Then the other issue is about where do you hold the cases? Do you have the holding rooms? Do you have treatment centers? One thing that was clear from the DG is that we expect each region to have a treatment center. So most of them have designated treatment center. The idea is that we need to be sure that it's ready to receive the case. So those were the marching orders that we are expecting regions to be very sure that they actually have treatment centers. Most of them actually have holding rooms. There are cases that when you see a case, you need to move into before we take samples. So that was not much of a problem. But I think is that national level will have a number of verifications to be sure that we actually are sure of what exists. But most of the regions actually have some of these things in place or earmarked.
I mean, so with the outcome that you're just detailing, it appears that the regions, to get these in place, would need resources. It leads to the question whether the resources have been dispatched to the regions to get them ready and get these holding rooms, etc., ready.
Yeah, so as I said, it depends. It varies. I mean, some will need a little resources. Some are about fine. So, and DG is, or the ministry and the service is trying to give them some funds that they can carry on a number of activities. We want to be sure that the communication messages are going not just at a district but further down. So I think that there were a number of useful discussions that were held, so that we are sure of our level of preparedness that we want to achieve. So I think in the whole, it was a good meeting, a frank discussion with the DG and the regional directors, so that we all can be sure where we are in terms of preparedness.
Okay, and very quickly on resources. Last week, we at the briefing that we got from the Health Ministry, flanked by the GHS officials, were told that an additional 11 million was possibly in the pipeline to be released as well. Wonder if that has been released and has been distributed already.
So I think that we are having a lot of partners, including World Bank and the rest, who are prepared to make sure that money shouldn't be a factor to kind of derail our preparedness. So that 11 million, I would say, is not ready for now, but that was not the key issue for now. We wanted to be sure that our plan is able to achieve what we wanted to achieve, because see, the scenario has changed and this disease keeps on changing. So we want to be sure that the port of entries, in the time past, focus so much was on Potoka. Now looking at the ground crossing. So it's a mixture of activities that are actually being earmarked to be sure we are prepared. So it's not much of money is not being there, but to be sure that we have a common plan that can address the threat of coronavirus.
Does the recorded case in Burkina Faso change anything for us?
No, you see, I think that the threat exists. So what you need to look for is you need to prepare for the worst and make sure that you can address it. If you look at our direction to address coronavirus, the issue is early detect and contain. So if you're able to early detect, you will never have cases overcoming your system. And we are pushing in that direction, that we have our cellular system be very sensitive, either at the point of entries or at the health facilities. Then we can early detect the first case. In that case, you have very minimal contacts to be followed, and then it does not escalate to numbers that you to be overwhelm your system.
So I guess then that, and you mentioned it briefly, that with the Burkina Faso case now, there is a focus now being placed at our land borders as well, particularly our border with Burkina Faso. Is that something that is actively happening right now?
Yeah, so we actually had like an update from the regions. How are the borders doing? And as I said, we had fairly responses from them. They have few challenges. What do you need to be doing to make sure that? Let me say that Ghana has, let's say, over 40 something approved borders, but it's not all that is manned by Port Health staff. So there are other staff, like immigration or customs, who are supposed to supplement our Port Health staff, so that we can actually detect. But for COVID, the focus is not wholly about the borders or the point of entry, because the disease can enter your system. So you need to look beyond just the borders to also within, so that you can detect. As I said, for about 50-something cases, about 85% of them were actually detected or suspected in the health facilities. So though we are trying to improve on our border surveillance, it's not wholly the approach to address early detection. We want to be sure that within and without, we can detect early and then contain.
I'm grateful, sir, that you could come out of that meeting to talk to us. That's Dr. Franklin Asidu-Bekwing. He is the head of disease surveillance, currently chairing one of those meetings today. As you've just been hearing him talk about, there is a lot that is being reviewed currently across the country in all 16 regions, particularly with the case now in Burkina Faso. They've been doing an assessment of preparedness at our borders around the country. Also today, there is tonight a major development also to report in Ghana's efforts to get ready and deal with any potential outbreak. The president has, in the last few hours, ordered the immediate suspension of all foreign travels by public officials and officers. My presidential correspondent, Elton Broby, has a copy of that of the directive and joins me in the studio with details of this. Elton, this is, I see, clearly embossed on this document, urgent. It is not a statement, is it? This is...
It isn't. And if you look at the statement, the recipients are well spelled out. So this is a directive coming from the president, and it's signed by the chief of staff to all sector ministers, all regional ministers, deputy ministers, MMDCEs, as well as head of government agencies. Now, the directive is that as part of measures to prevent the outbreak of the coronavirus, that's COVID-19 in Ghana, the president has directed that all foreign travels by public officials, officers, should be suspended. Only critical travels will be considered. This directive, together with other measures being put in place by government, is intended to protect the general public from contracting the virus. And it says that please take note and ensure compliance. And it's signed by Kosia Frema of Oseo Pari, Chief of Staff. The date is today, 10th March 2020. Remember that at the Independence celebration in Kumasi, the president announced the fact that he is constituted an emergency response team, and they've been advising him. Now, at the Independence team celebration, he outlined the fact that some of the countries worst hit by this virus should only undertake essential travels to Ghana. He mentioned South Korea, Italy, and China. And he announced that going forward, government will be updating on measures taken. I'm sure this is one of the new measures that has been taken so far to address this.
Okay,
this issue.
So that is an interesting point. So Ghana is asking countries with recorded cases visit Ghana, but do it when you must absolutely do it. Only essential travels into Ghana if you are from, say, Italy, Norway, etc.
Yes, Iran, Japan, South Korea, China, as well as Italy.
Okay.
And these are countries government consider to be hardest hit by this virus. And the caution is that unless it's very essential that we travel to Ghana,
please don't travel to Ghana. And I guess the president then is saying it's doing a reverse here.
Right.
While the world is dealing with this particular problem, none of my appointees
is also traveling.
Unless it's also very critical. So it's just a reverse of our own directive to our friends in other countries who have recorded massive cases of the coronavirus. Very interesting development there. I am delighted to say that I've just been joined on the telephone line by Reverend Professor Kwame Nasego, Department of Medical Microbiology, University of Ghana Medical School. He's also a virologist. Thank you very much, Prof, for your time here on Top Story.
Thank you. Good evening to your listeners.
What do you make of this latest directive coming from the president to his appointees and to government officials and officers?
Maybe I should just say that in China, it started from, it's believed to have started from one person. One person can make a difference.
Forgive me, I'm having a challenge with the line. If you can, if there's a radio set,
can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear. If it's a radio set beside you or TV, you can put it off. Okay. So we can, there's a slight feedback. Yes, sorry, repeat that point for me again.
Okay, I just made the point that in China, it probably started from one person who is alleged to have eaten something, and it spread all this far. So one person makes a difference. I believe that what they're trying to do is to set an example. And I've just seen the notice. They just said that they are putting in other measures. So I believe it's leadership by example, that we are doing this. So everyone must put in an effort to do his or her best to prevent us from reaching any level that would be unacceptable.
Okay, so this is the first good step. Let's talk about another big development in this whole issue as far as Ghana is concerned. Our northern neighbor Burkina Faso has a case. Should that change anything for us?
Well, it does, but I think the bigger problem even has to do with travel. Because if you look at the case in Burkina Faso, there was, I think, a couple from France who found their way home to Burkina Faso, or whether it was, I don't know if they're natives, but they came to Burkina Faso. So you realize that a lot of the African cases are imports. Now, the challenge we have is to make sure that these imports do not spread locally, because then we will have a problem on our hands. And I think the Nigerians have done very well, because I'm on a platform with other Nigerian virologists. And apart from the case, the Indus case that they had, that was imported, they have not had any spread except for someone who was closely related or in contact with the Index case. And if all this while we've not heard of other people getting it, I think they are doing well. So I think that should be the focus, making sure that even if we find Index cases have come in because of travel, these ones don't spread. So in answering your question, yes, it should be of concern, but I think the bigger concern even has to do with travel, because it's not spreading in Burkina Faso yet. At least we know that a couple have it and they have been isolated.
Okay, so I guess then that further adds to this presidential directive, but also to ordinary people. I guess your advice as a virologist is take the same advice. Don't travel, only do when it's absolutely necessary to.
I think so. I mean, you should only travel when it's necessary. Now with teleconferencing facilities and all the level of communication that we have, I mean, I think it's possible not to travel unless it's absolutely necessary, because a lot of things you can do. Yes, there are some things that people said you have to do by direct contact, but other things you can probably do online. I even learned that a church in South Korea was actually meeting online. So that's how far people are taking it now. So there's a possibility that with telecommunication advances, you can always make connections online. I mean, and then be able to reduce the travel, unless you have to move.
I mean, so it's in Burkina Faso, it's going around the globe. I mean, it's spreading from one country to the next. We haven't been hit yet, so to speak. Some experts I've heard, including Noguchi's head, have said it's a matter of when and not if. I know we've just been talking about emergency meetings still happening tonight. So there's a lot that officials are doing, but at an individual level, we've had a lot, but it's every opportunity must take to repeat them. From a virologist's point of view, what are the essentials? What should we be doing?
I think my biggest, the most important point for me is that we should learn to wash our hands. You know, I mean, we said we shouldn't shake hands, but you should remember that you open door handles when you go to work, you walk across, you go to the washroom, and you keep opening door handles. So I think that we need to build that habit of washing hands. Once you move from where you are doing something, you walk through a period, you open doors and you come back, and you have water and soap around you, just wash your hands. Because it's that's how it will spread. You see, opening door handles is next to shaking hands because you're still holding. If someone hands holds the door handle and you go and hold the door handle, it's an indirect of the person shaking your hand. So we need to cultivate the habit of washing our hands. And of course, if you're sick, stay at home, especially if you know you have a history of someone who has come from many of the countries where the virus is spreading in epidemic proportion. Then you should be careful, because if you are sick, you should be sincere, call for help, stay where you are, and let those who have been trained to be able to handle it. Of course, if the symptoms are any of the ones that have been outlined.
And I need to ask you this. You talk about travels. Over the weekend, CNN officially declared this. I mean, at their level, declared this a global pandemic. The WHO hasn't done so yet, but they believe the threshold has been reached, and they called it so because they believe that nomenclature triggers a whole set of actions and release of funds, etc. It brings us a next level emergency urgency to dealing with this particular problem. Is it a pandemic yet? And would changing the nomenclature change how we are approaching this globally?
Sorry, I didn't get the last part.
I mean, the nomenclature. Is it a pandemic yet? And with changing that description, change the way it's been handled globally?
Well, I know that I think the stage 5 has to do with community spread, the man-to-man on the different WHO regional areas. But I've heard a WHO person say that because of the efforts they are putting in, and the fact that it has to reach every human being or every WHO region on this planet, you can't just call it a pandemic. I think we should allow the experts to determine that it's a pandemic. I don't think we should rush in calling it a pandemic.
Okay, I'm grateful that you join us on this with the updates and the contributions. So far, as you may well know, the coronavirus is cases as of now is 118,002 cases globally. Death toll is 4,264. Those who have recovered fully and have been infected is 65,103 cases so far. So that the survival rate is higher. It's pretty high on that front. We're also getting some latest on what is happening in Ghana's premier hospital, Kolebu Teaching Hospital, where we're learning from the deputy health minister that there is currently a new protocol in place at Kolebu. There is mass screening and testing there for all those who walk into the facility, and for those especially who may start showing symptoms that meet the case definition. Listen.
One of the things that we have also done to make sure that we prevent people from coming in with that problem undetected is that in places like Kolebu, where we have multiple entry points, we have asked that they should create designated entry points, and for those entry points, they must make sure that whoever is coming, whoever is to be suspected to carry the virus, that is the protocol that we have set in place, so that once you are entering, they will have to check your temperature to see whether you are going to maternity, whether you are going for x-ray, whatever that you're going to do. For as long as you are entering the hospital, they have to check these things, so that if you are found to show the symptoms of that case definition, you can be put in the isolated place or the holding room, and the various protocols will be taken to be sure that you are negative. If you are found to be positive, then you would then have to be taken to the treatment center. So I believe that the earlier suspected incidents that happened in Kolebu became very rude wake-up calls to us. And on the heels of that, we have been able to put in place a lot of things to make sure that we contain it.
Okay, so that's the Deputy Health Minister there detailing for us what's happening in Korle Bu. So just take note. If you're going to Korle Bu tonight, note that you'll be subjected to that test. If they find that you meet the case definition, regardless of what your issue is in Korle Bu, as the Health Minister has just explained there, you will go to the screening. If they feel that you meet the case definition, you will be isolated, you'll be tested for coronavirus. And so just bear that in mind. I want to take you to Burkina Faso now. Nasara Parfait is a colleague journalist there and joins us on the telephone line right now. Nasara, thank you for your time here on Top Story. So how is Burkina Faso dealing with this first recorded case tonight?
Okay. At this night, when we want to talk about the people, many people are getting fear and must care very careful for this coronavirus or the Corona-19. The first case of coronavirus in Burkina Faso is contact with some person who back from France. He was there, but the bishop Mamadou Karambire and his wife, who was in France, to some ceremonies. But when he's back in Burkina at the airport, the test was okay. But we carried them at the big hospital in Ouagadougou, who called Tengango Hospital in Ouagadougou. But in all of the two persons who suspected getting coronavirus are put it in quarantine, and the government take many plans. The first plan is to mobilize the many agents with and training them to fight against this pandemic hell. And the two times we create an area to treat every person who suspected get coronavirus. After that, we create the agency for communicate and sensibilize all the population to be careful for this pandemic hell. Okay,
so there's a lot that the Burkina Faso officials are doing on the back of that first recorded case. Nasara Parfait, I'm grateful that you could join us from Burkina Faso with that particular update. So listening to Top Stories on Joy 99.7 FM. News Night starts in a minute.